Have you ever felt as though your prayers just hit the ceiling? You're praying to God, you're crying out to Him, but there's no power to it. In fact, it becomes a routine. You might be praying 3 times a day, but it's just for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Not that personal experience with Jesus Christ. I remember a time in my experience where I was hitting that roof as well, praying to God because that's what you do as a Christian, and yet not realizing His power and His strength in my life. There I was at a prophecy seminar, and it was unlike any seminar I'd ever attended before, there in the beautiful country of India. And we were out in the open stars, the open sky, and I watched as the beautiful women in their saris came and they sat down cross-legged on the ground, and there we sat listening to the preacher speak about the love of Jesus revealed in the book of Revelation. And I look off to my left and I see the oxen munching on their dinner and the cows and the rooster and the dogs, and it was unlike any setting before. At the end of the meeting, the ladies all gathered around and they grabbed my hands and they put them on their heads, a sign that they were wanting me to pray for them. And we gathered in small groups and we began to pray for all those there in attendance. Finally, this family came up to us and they said, "Can you please come to our house and pray for our son? He's very ill, he's been sick, and we want you to come and pray for him." And so, of course, we followed the family to their home, and there we are, and we're winding through this village in the dark, stumbling along as the little children greeted us, and finally we round the corner into this dark street, and finally into this dark one-room home. Climb up the step, and I have to duck real low, and there in the entryway is a man lying on his cot. If you were to look at that man, you would question how he was still alive. He tried to open his eyes in a way of greeting, but he could not even open his eyes. He was so weak. He looked so ill. And we looked at this man who just a few days earlier was helping with the prophecy seminar. He was attending faithfully. He was excited about these meetings. And now here he is looking as though he's on his deathbed. The family repeated their request, "Will you pray for him?" We gathered in a small group around him and we laid our hands on him. We began to pray. But of course, in my mind, as others were praying, I'm thinking there's no way he's going to live. There's no way he's going to make it here. I would take him to a hospital, but it won't help him in these conditions, unfortunately. And so we continued to pray for this man, and with heavy hearts, we left that night. The next evening, I returned to the prophecy seminar, and that family came up to us once again, but this time with smiles across their faces. And they told us, "You know our brother, the one that you prayed for last night?" Yes, of course. "He's here. He's healed." I said, "How is that possible? I saw him last night. He was sick. There's no way." And they said, "Of course he's healed. You prayed for him." Can you imagine the conviction that struck my heart as I realized this Hindu family had more faith in my God than I did. They believed that God answered prayer. And there I am praying as a routine, and yet God could listen to the prayers that were uttered by that Hindu family as they saw Christians seeking their God in prayer. You know, brothers and sisters, the same is true for us today. Ephesians chapter 3 and verse 20 gives us a promise that God stands behind. It says, "Now to him who is able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works within us." You see, God will not only do exceedingly, He will do exceedingly, abundantly, above. God wants to give more. God wants to show His power in our lives, but the only limit is our lack of faith. Are we willing to ask big things today of a God who is infinite? Ask big things of God, knowing that He wants to do even more than you can imagine.